welcome to Breast Cancer Care WA's financial webinar presented by Shirley Witko. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself, Louise Davies, and Mel Rowley. We are both McGrath Advanced Breast Care Nurses that work at Breast Cancer Care WA. I'd like to formally acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land we are on today. We at Breast Cancer Care WA are streaming from the Whadjuk Noongar land, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'll hand over to Mel.
Thank you, Lou, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So as Lou said, today we're presenting our webinar on financial support whilst living with cancer. And the reason we wanted to do this webinar today is we know firsthand from working with our clients how much financial strain can be put upon people whilst they're living with this disease, and people in remote areas and rural areas even more so. And sometimes people aren't aware of the support that's available out there or how to access such things. So we thought it'd be really good to be able to do this webinar today so that people can be aware of what is out there. So the webinar will touch on things such as accessing Centrelink, superannuation and insurance options, and then also financial grants, charities and emergency relief that might be available to people that are really struggling. And to present on this topic today, we are joined by the very knowledgeable, very wonderful Shirley Witko. Shirley's been a health social worker since completing her Bachelor of Social Work in 2005, and she has spent the majority of her career to date working in cancer care. She worked for 15 years at Sir Charles Gardner Hospital in Perth, supporting cancer patients and their families, and that was in both inpatient and outpatient settings, and that's where I got the privilege to work with Shirley for a few years. Shirley moved regionally in 2021, taking the role of the Senior Social Worker in the Kimberley Integrated Cancer Services team. She is based in Broome and supports families and patients from the Kimberley region through treatment, both delivered locally, but also those patients that have to travel to Perth. Shirley is also an active member of the Oncology Social Work Australia and New Zealand organisation, and this organisation supports and educates social workers to enhance psychosocial services to people with cancer and their families. So thank you so much for joining us today, Shirley, and we will now hand over to you.
Thank you very much. I will start my slides. Yes, thank you very much for having me to present today, and I also respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're meeting. So for me in Broome, I'm on Yawuru country, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. So yes, the financial costs of cancer. So this can include a range of things. We think about the reduced or inability completely to work. We think about medication costs. And just with reduced work that leads to reduced income. We think about medication costs, whether it's just your general medications or trial medications. There's gap costs in private treatment, and that includes the consults, the scans, your excess. There's travel costs, whether that's driving, petrol, parking, and for regional patients, that's the costs that are incurred even after PATS contributions, because they don't necessarily cover the whole thing. And for Aboriginal patients who particularly might rely on like the pool of family support, so they might be away from that shared pool. And then there's long-term costs. There's the exhaustion of paid leave, because you might be using all of that while you're going through treatment. You might be drawing on savings that you've worked so hard for. You might be having to use credit and sort of building up a credit debt. And it can disrupt the superannuation contributions as well. So again, yeah, short-term impacts as well as long-term impacts. And all this financial cost applies to both patients and carers, who also then have to take time off work to travel or to support their patients. And for regional patients, the PATS escorts that also then travel away from home. So just in this diagram, I guess we're explaining that, the costs of cancer, some are high costs, some are low costs, some are once off, some are frequent, but all together they accumulate, and the costs can vary and can be quite burdensome for some people. So you might have heard the term financial toxicity. So we use this term to describe the inclusion of objective, so actual financial burden, and subjective, the perceived financial distress. So for some people, I guess it's just factoring in how different people cope with financial stress. So it can cause physical and psychological harm, and it can influence people's decisions about their cancer care. So some people may choose to delay, modify, or completely decline treatment or medications because of the financial burden, the experience of financial toxicity. So as Mel and Lou explained, that my presentation is about what are some of the practical support options, what assistance can we turn to. So I'll cover income, payments, super access, Centrelink, and some additional assistance that we can possibly turn to. So firstly, income and payment options. So some people have the option to participate in flexible working arrangements with their employer. So that might be working part-time, working from home, remotely, or just working their hours around treatment if they're up to it and if their treatment schedule allows. So then we look at paid leave, whether that's sick leave, annual leave. Some people might use half pay to stretch their paid leave entitlements. Some employers I've come across from patients that they have some employers who are very flexible in how they might continue to pay employees in this circumstance of illness or whilst they're caring for someone. So it really just depends on your employer. And then some employees have additional leave entitlements in these circumstances where they can access this extra sort of special sick pay without using their normal sick pay. So yes, again, it's all depending on your employer and what they offer. There's insurance payments, and I'll go into that in more detail shortly. And so these could be, you might have standalone policies that you've paid for, or you might have them as part of your superannuation. Just be mindful that a lot of the insurance payments might only be accessible for the patients, not carers. And then there's Centrelink payment options, which again, I'll go through in more detail shortly. So for insurance payments, as I said, check your superannuation policy. A lot of people don't realise that they have these insurance policies as part of their super. So you've been perhaps paying for this insurance coverage. If you've paid for the premiums, you're entitled to claim on them if you meet the criteria. So you might have some or all of these types of policies. So first one is income protection, or otherwise called salary continuance insurance. So this is for when you can't perform your usual job due to illness or injury. And so this is a regular payment for a fixed maximum period. So for example, you might get a payment monthly and the maximum period might be for 2 years. It requires medical evidence on your application. So they'll require you to fill in forms and medical reports filled and employee filling forms. And then they'll do medical reviews at regular intervals. And some people will even transition to some part-time work, perhaps as they might be able to move in and out of work or transition back to work slowly on their return after treatment. And this payment is usually a certain percentage of your usual income. So it's not usually the equivalent of your full income. And that percentage just depends on your level of cover. Total and permanent disability insurance payments. So this is if you're unable to ever return to work because of a permanent disability. And it is a lump sum payment. And again, go back. Again, medical evidence is required. And as I say, it's a lump sum rather than a regular payment. And the amount you get obviously depends on your level of cover. And then the third one is terminal illness benefit. So this is often accessible if your estimated life expectancy is less than 2 years. So it allows people to access that money that time, when they can make the most of it. It again is a lump sum payment. So some things to consider with all these insurance payments is, will there be tax will you be taxed on the payment? So for salary continuance, income protection, I believe it is taxed. Total permanent disability may be taxed, and terminal illness benefit may be taxed. So I think it's best to check with your insurer as to whether the payment is going to be taxed or not, which might then, like with the income protection, might lead to if they tell you it's going to be this much, you'll factor in that tax will be taken out, so it'll be a bit less. And also be aware that if you're receiving a Centrelink benefit, then you'll need to inform Centrelink if you receive some of these payments, and so your benefit might then be stopped or reduced. And a reminder that if you do have these if you are claiming these insurance payments through your super, these are all separate payments from the actual money that you've saved up in super. If we think about super as a savings account, then that savings is a separate pot of money to claiming these insurance payments. So you can potentially access both. So when we talk about superannuation access, so I'm talking about under preservation age, meaning under retirement age, and so the age that this table shows is different to the age pension age. So this is when you can access your super when it's not retirement age. So for the most part, it's a minimum of age 60. I think for everybody these days, you have to be at least 60 to, if you're under 60, then that's called under preservation age. And so to access that, there are 3 categories. So one is called severe financial hardship. So this means that you've been on Centrelink payments for at least 26 continuous weeks and that you're unable to meet reasonable and immediate living expenses. So they allow you to withdraw up to $10,000 every 12 months. And to apply, you have to go via the super fund, and it is taxed. Beware the tax is taken out. There's compassionate grounds, so this can be used to pay for medical treatment, transport or palliative care, or for modifications to your home or vehicle due to severe disability, for reasonable death, funeral or burial expenses, or to prevent foreclosure or forced sale of your home. So there are still strict criteria about what is considered compassionate grounds. So again, you have to provide evidence that you can't pay for these costs in another way. And this one you apply through the Australian Tax Office, and it is also taxed. And then lastly, there's the terminal medical condition. So again, if your life expectancy is considered to be less than 2 years, and you provide letters from 2 doctors to state that, and those 2 doctors, one needs to be a specialist, one can be a GP. So again, you apply through the super fund. It is a lump sum and it is tax-free. So now if we talk about Centrelink, so there are a few different potential payment options. So one of them is Job Seeker. And actually, before I go into that, in terms of applying for Centrelink, you'll need to have your customer reference number, so your CRN, and your ID verified if you're applying for the first time. Everybody has a CRN allocated to them. If you've never applied for a Centrelink payment, then you probably don't know it, you'd go into Centrelink and they'll help you get your number, bring ID with you. But if you have had a payment in the past, then it's the same Centrelink reference number that is your lifetime number. So your CRN might show up on your MyGov if you use MyGov, and if you're linked with Centrelink, or you could go into a Centrelink office or Services Australia office and have this set up. To get your CRN number, and they can also assist you to set up MyGov if you wish to. So with the job seeker payments, so the titles of these payments sort of changed a few years ago around COVID. So yes, it's considered job seeker, but for many of our cancer patients, you're having treatment, you might not be well enough they don't expect you to go and look for work. So you have a medical certificate that goes with that. So that's what I've labelled there. The SU415 form is the preferred medical certificate. It's a Centrelink medical certificate form. They will accept other medical certificates, but that's the preferred one. And GPs can often will often have those, or you can get them online if you look up the SU415 form on the Centrelink website. So that, yeah, this is for when you temporarily can't perform your usual job due to illness. And it's income and asset tested. So, and they take into account the whole household situation, not just you. So yes, if you're people will be on this payment if they're unemployed or if they become unwell. So with that medical certificate. So the medical certificate provides you a temporary exemption from having to look for work or complete the job appointments. Sort of they have job pathways appointments that assist people with looking for employment if they need. So with the medical certificate, you won't need to participate in those things. Your medical certificate can excuse you for up to 12 months. So depending on the doctor, what they've written, they might provide a 3-month exemption, 6-month exemption. It can be up to 12 months, and then as you near the end of that time frame, if your medical situation is still ongoing, you would just get another medical certificate to submit. And yes, there's no limit to the amount of medical certificates that you can submit. So these tables that I've screenshot here from the Centrelink website show payment amounts. The payment amount is a guide because they might sound pretty low, but there can also be other allowances that might come on top of that. So you might get rent assistance, regional allowances, utility allowances, etc. So it can go up from there, but that's just a rough guide. So you'll see amounts there, whether you're single, have no children, have children, have partner, etc. And then they, like I said, they are asset assessed. So the other table shows you how much value of assets you're allowed to have to still qualify for this payment. There's also disability pension. So this is also income and asset tested, so the whole household. And to meet eligibility, they've got 2 sort of streams. So under general medical, your condition is considered likely to persist for more than 2 years, and it stops you from working at least 15 hours a week, and that the condition is considered reasonably treated and stable. And so by that they mean that the level of function or disability is permanent, so it's not waiting for further treatment and could improve. This is how you are. It could get worse, or this is how you are. And again, you need to gather evidence of your diagnosis, treatment, symptoms, and functional limitations, because they use a rating points scale to determine whether you meet enough of the criteria to be considered suitable for disability pension. So you can get evidence from doctors, OTs, physios, etc., whatever describes your disability, for want of a better word. So for some of the metastatic breast cancer patients, this can still apply because your treatment is ongoing, your function and or availability is affected enough that you might not be able to work more than 15 hours a week. So for example, you might be on such frequent treatment, and then you factor in the side effects of that. By the time you recover, there's no time to do work as well. Or perhaps, I've had some patients who've got significant lymphedema, and it either affects their function, combined with all the sort of treatment that they need to keep on top of their lymphedema is time consuming, and so that all combined means that they're not able to work that 15 hours a week. So that's fine. It's just about gathering the evidence, whether it's letters, reports and things, to demonstrate that. And then the second category is what they call the manifest medical rules. So that can be if someone is of a nursing home level of care, or their life expectancy is considered to be less than 2 years. And if that is the case, in terms of the life expectancy, they actually have different forms to complete, so that it is a simpler, faster process to get onto the disability pension. To reduce wait times. The other common payment would be carers allowance or payments. So obviously we're talking for the carers. So again, medical evidence of care is required. There's a medical report that so the care recipient's GP should fill in, and it should describe your worst day. So even if you might sometimes need help with showering, tick yes. So yes, the form should be describing the maximum care that you might need, even if that's not required all the time. So this includes physical help. So for example, help to get in and out of bed or a chair, or help with showering. It can include guidance like assistance to go shopping, to take your medications, to attend appointments, and include supervision. Supervision to support independence or safety. So all of that should be explained in the form. There's a bit of tick box, but I always say if the doctor needs to write some explanations, feel free to write it on there, because a person reads the form, not a computer. So yes, put it all in there. And so there's two different types. The allowance is the smaller amount, so it's $162.60 a fortnight at the moment. It's not assets tested, and there is a high income threshold to receive this. So they do still want to know about your income, but yes, they have quite a high threshold. So carers can still work and receive the carers allowance. The payment is income and assets tested. So a bit like a pension, it's the carer can work up to maybe 100 hours every 4 weeks. So they can work a little bit, but there is limits to how much they can earn and how much assets that they own. So again, this table here shows you the rates that they can receive, whether they're single or in a couple. Yes, so the total down the bottom there. So these are the current amounts that the carer's payment is. And you can, so if you are earning more than the amount that they say you can earn, it just means that your payment can be reduced. So there is a sliding scale. So you might get a part carer's payment and work, and that sliding scale goes all the way down to then earning nothing. So you could still earn a part payment. And back to the allowance, the high income threshold there, so long as your income is less than $250,000 for a carer and their partner. So again, it assesses the household income, but it's quite a high threshold. And if you don't maybe qualify for an actual payment from Centrelink, you might still qualify for a low-income healthcare card. So this table shows you the gross income that they allow, or that they look at, where you might still be eligible to get this low-income healthcare card. So although you're not going to get a payment from Centrelink, the card will allow you to have discounts for medications, doctor's appointments, bills, public transport, etc. So it can still be very handy even if you don't get an actual payment. Just some little tips about Centrelink, navigating Centrelink. So use MyGov if you can. Completing claims on MyGov is a guided form. It already takes information that it knows about you, and then it will, if you say no to a question, it'll skip over irrelevant questions. So it's a bit of a simpler process. You can upload documents on MyGov, you can track the progress of your claim, and you can communicate. You can see letters much faster, obviously, through MyGov. So it is overall quite useful. But you can still do paper applications and go into a Centrelink office. If things are tricky, if you've got questions, if you're getting stuck, make an appointment with Centrelink. You can request an appointment by phoning up, going in, or on your MyGov, and I've screenshot there the sort of navigation, the menu button there, appointments, manage appointments, and then here it says book an appointment. So by making an appointment, you're going to then have a set time to talk to someone who is knowledgeable and prepared in dealing with what you're there to talk about. So you can say, I want to talk about disability pension. So then the Centrelink officer is going to be someone who knows, all right, we're going to be talking about disability pension, so they're all across it. And then that way you don't have to line up and wait in a Centrelink office. You've got a set time, and that appointment can be on the phone or it can be face-to-face. And the financial information service through Centrelink, so they run this free service. There's a phone number there, and it is to talk about all things financial, so not just about Centrelink, but they will explain financial products and the risks associated with it. So they can talk about superannuation, salary sacrifice, credit. They will explain the roles of financial professionals. They'll explain how a change in your circumstance might affect your financial situation in the short or long term, including how it could affect your Centrelink payments. They can help you find resources. So it's a really useful service. They also have, if you go onto the Centrelink website and look for the Financial Information Service, FIS, they have educational webinars and videos that you can watch as well. So that can be just useful tools. But I guess in general, if you need any more assistance with Centrelink or the forms, talk to your cancer service social worker or welfare officer, depending where you are. There might be a welfare officer who deals specifically with Centrelink. And financial counsellors can also assist with Centrelink and the forms. And I'll talk about what a financial counsellor is and how to find one in a minute. So what other assistance is there? So Breast Cancer Care, our lovely friends at Breast Cancer Care WA also have some financial assistance for those in hardship as a result of their breast cancer treatment. So you can talk to the staff there about accessing that for essential bills and costs. There is also emergency relief and food access. So when we talk about that, we mean food vouchers or actual supplies of food or a referral to a food bank location. So these are centres where you can go, you can self-present, you don't need a referral. So the places like Salvation Army, St Vinny's, Anglicare, etc. These are centres that can assess you and could provide you with a voucher or some supplies. Or yeah, like I say, telling you where the food bank locations are. And food bank gives you an opportunity to shop from donated grocery items at a very cheap price. And there are 6 centres in WA and some mobile locations. These centres, these emergency relief centres, can also provide utility bill and rent relief. So it's not just about food. So yes, going to see a centre, they'll talk you through, find out a little bit about your financial situation and see what they can offer you. And this website here tells you locations. So you can go in there and type your suburb and it'll tell you where the nearest centres are. And just going back to rent relief, so this could be if you're in arrears or at risk of eviction, that they could offer a one-off payment. I believe it can be up to $5,000. So yes, if you're struggling with your rent, it could be worth talking to a centre and seeing if they can help. There's the HUGS scheme, so Hardship Utility Grant Scheme is about getting assistance with your utility bills. So these are accessible if you, after you're committed to 90 days of payment, so like payment plans with your utility providers, you arrange access to these through the utility company. So yes, if you're struggling with any of your bills, they say it's best to talk to the provider, to Horizon Power or Alinta Gas or whoever it is, and yeah, talk to them, work out a payment plan, or ask about access to the HUGS scheme. And if the amount that they can assist you with, depending on your location, so in the Northwest, it's like $1,060. In the below the 26 parallel, it's $640, and it will grant you up to 85% of the outstanding debt that you have with your bill. So again, if you're in arrears. There is a thermoregulatory dysfunction energy subsidy. So if you have a medical condition that significantly disrupts your body's ability to control temperature, and extreme temperatures might affect your health or bodily function, then this is a subsidy to help with the cost of your heating and cooling. It is also for pensioners and healthcare card holders. And yes, if you go online, there's a page all about it with forms guiding you through how to apply for it. So this might affect some of our patients, and this is the amount is $832 that's paid annually in advance. So it's a grant that you get to sort of help with the cost of heating and cooling. There is the WA no interest loan scheme. So this is to purchase essential household items or to pay for essential services or to purchase an essential vehicle. So it is a loan, still requires you to pay it back, but there's no interest. There is a low income criteria and the repayment can be spread over 12 or 24 months. So it's a small loan, so up to $2,000 for example, essential furniture, appliances, vehicle repairs, education fees, equipment costs, that sort of thing. And for the essential vehicles, it could be between $2,000 and $5,000 for a car or a mobility scooter or a motorbike to get you around, basically. There are other charity grants. So I've listed there Wern Trust, Hall Foundation, WA Charity Direct. So these charities will help with larger items or costs. There is criteria that you need to meet, and it's quite a detailed application that will run through your income situation, your assets, your expenses, so finding out about all your financial situation. And I haven't gone into too much detail because it does require a health representative to apply on your behalf. So it's more just for the health professionals to be aware of this, that they can then look into these things and could then maybe offer that to you and assist with applying. So depending on different charities, it can be a bit of a time process. Like some of them will assess applications weekly, some of them assess applications monthly or less frequently. So it may not be an immediate assistance, but it's something that could be accessed. Don't forget there's also the PBS safety net. So if you spend over $277.20 for concession holders or $1,748.20 for the general public, that if you spend that on medications in a calendar year, then your medications become free for concession card holders, or $7.70 per script for the general public for the rest of the year. So that just reduces the cost of your medications once you meet that threshold. For country patients, there's also a regional pensioner travel card. So this provides funds for fuel or taxis for pensioners who live in regional areas. They can apply through a form at the post office. Once you get the card, then it's resent to you every financial year. And that amount is $775 a year. So it's a significant amount of assistance for fuel or taxis. So that's for pensioners for whether it's age pension, carers payment, disability pension, or Veterans Affairs pensioners. And for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, there is the Integrated Team Care Program, which funds. It's there to support people with chronic conditions to access healthcare. So that includes cancer patients, and that. They have coordination services, they have outreach workers, but they also will fund things that help to better manage a condition or access to treatment. So for example, that could be purchasing like equipment or an appliance, like a medical appliance, or assist with the cost of travel and accommodation to do with your healthcare. So I mentioned earlier, I'd explained just the difference between financial counsellors and financial planners or advisors. So financial counsellors provide free information. They provide support and advocacy during hardship. So they'll ask questions about your situation to complete a financial statement and can assist with things like debts, bills, loans, fines, super access, budgeting, financial abuse, scams. And they are qualified, trained people. They should be registered with the Financial Counsellors Association. So they have great knowledge about consumer and credit law, hardship processes. They can negotiate with creditors. They can help you apply for some of those grants that I mentioned earlier, or they'll let you know about some of those grants that you could be eligible for. Yes, so it's definitely worth talking to a financial counsellor. So that website there has a link about where to find a financial counsellor. And that could be in person or on the phone support. So that is free, and a financial planner or advisor is someone who provides personal advice. So again, in detail about your financial situation and give advice about budgeting, investing, superannuation, retirement planning, estate planning, insurance and tax. So not so much, or not just about hardship, but more about bigger picture, forward planning, yes, optimizing your financial situation, and they do that for a fee. So that financial information service that I mentioned through Centrelink is basically like a financial counsellor that you're talking to. But yes, a financial counsellor might go into more detail about your situation and getting to know your situation and then giving assistance from there. So I've also was asked to, just comment about travel insurance. So for people with a cancer diagnosis, they might be, everyone wants to travel and tick off those bucket list items. But yes, you would have to in order for your insurance to cover you with your cancer situation, you would have to declare the cancer. So there's a difference between having pre-existing condition cover, so where you self-disclose or there's a form that you or the GP fill to ensure that your cancer is covered. So in the event that you are away and something happens that is a condition linked to your cancer, then you are covered for that. So I put an example of a insurer there, passport card. That is just one example. That's an example that a travel agent suggested to me that she was aware regularly provides cover for cancer patients, because some insurers may not cover you. They may say, we will cover for other things if it's not associated with the cancer, not loosely associated with the cancer. But they may not cover you for anything that arises associated with the cancer. So yes, beware of that risk that you take if you don't have cover. So if you want to ensure that your cancer is covered, passport card could be one that does that. Obviously, it just depends on your situation, where you are in your treatment or in your survivorship journey. But then there are specialist medical travel insurance policies and providers. So for example, All Clear Travel Insurance is one that has a cancer travel insurance policy specifically. So that is just one example. So, but yes, that All Clear one, when I did some research, it says that it considers all stages and many types of cancers, including metastatic breast cancer. But of course, be prepared that there may be additional premium costs involved with all of this. So depending on your situation and where you want to travel to, it could be a costly insurance cover. But that is the end of my prepared presentation about financial support for people living with cancer, obviously for breast cancer, but a lot of it's quite relevant for anybody with a cancer diagnosis. So I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Shirley. That was so informative. I think I've learned so much from that. It's just, it's a minefield. And I find, me and Mel are very often asked so many questions about financial stuff. It's really important that we have that knowledge and know where to reach out to. I think it's really important. We did have a few questions to ask you today, but you've actually probably covered quite a bit of
Yes, you
it,
did.
to be honest. Look, I think if someone has a really good social worker behind them, like yourself, it's just helps them fantastic. But if you're in a private sector, I think that's probably the really trickiest for anyone to get that sort of support. It's just really hard, isn't it, to get that extra support.
Yeah, and I guess my knowledge of the private hospitals, like in Perth, is that most private hospitals have access to a social worker. It may not be as obvious or as promoted, but there should be access to a social worker. So they might cover the whole hospital, so it might not be specifically an oncology social worker, but I would say just ask your oncologist or their nurse or their reception even, ask the oncologist clinic if they have a social worker that you can be referred to. But I would also just double check if there are any costs incurred with seeing the social worker. So just check about that. And I guess depending on what you need help with, Breast Cancer Care WA are a fantastic organisation and their nurses are very knowledgeable. So depending on what it is, I would also say your staff can also provide some advice, direction, or might link you in with a social worker that you may not be aware is there for you. So yeah.
Thanks, Shirley.
And you covered a lot of this as well, Shirley, but because obviously, like, one of the big things that we come up against is, you know, people that aren't feeling well and they find completing the Centrelink forms very difficult, and who to reach out to. So by what you were saying, the best thing to do would be to go directly to Centrelink and book an appointment there. Would that be?
Yeah, I would try, if you're finding it difficult with the forms or the MyGov, book an appointment with Centrelink, because they can be very helpful. You just need that time and space to sit down with them. And so, yes, by making an appointment, there's no rush. You're not lining up. You're not waiting your turn. Yes, have that appointment with them. Again, you can also ask to speak to the social worker or the welfare officer, who can help you through that as well. So, yeah, try those options.
Perfect. And if, like, non-English speaking clients at Centrelink, they would have interpreters available to help with that as well?
Yeah, definitely. It might be on the phone, or like if you're talking to them on the phone, it might be, via a three-way conversation. But yes, they would have access to interpreters.
Brilliant.
I actually haven't got this written down, but I was thinking, would you come across people that aren't citizens? It's so tricky to get that support, isn't it?
Yes, because citizenship or permanent residency, generally permanent residency is and for for a period of time, to qualify for Centrelink payments and things. You do need that for some payments, not all payments. So I guess, yes, it's still worth inquiring to see whether you might qualify. No harm in asking, but yes, be mindful that you may not qualify. Yeah,
thank you.
And then this is it is financial in a roundabout sort of way, but obviously we work with patients with metastatic breast cancer in the main, myself and Lou, and we get a lot of questions about applying for NDIS for help, obviously then financially with practical support. But obviously it's quite a complex process. Is there anything you would recommend for people thinking about applying for NDIS, and when would people may be eligible to apply in the metastatic setting?
So NDIS, their criteria is people under the age of 65 who have a permanent and significant impairment. And that impairment can be intellectual, cognitive, neurological, sensory, or physical. And that those impairments affect your ability to complete daily life activities. And by that can include social, work, or study. It can so those impairments can affect your body function, your body structure, how you think, how you learn. So that's the key words that NDIS are looking for when you're applying. And also that you're going to likely need those supports for the rest of your life. So it's not a temporary thing. So yes, if you meet that criteria, then you would need there's the application process to meet eligibility. You need to gather evidence, so reports, letters. So yes, from doctors, OTs, physios, psychologists, whoever it is, that would demonstrate, the more the merrier in terms of evidence, that would demonstrate that permanent and significant impairment and impacting daily life. So the NDIS websites, if you go to www.ndis.gov.au/applying, there's a whole myriad of information there about the criteria and about the steps involved, and the forms that you need to fill. There is also NDIS partners, what they call the partners. So they are community organisations who can help people to understand the NDIS and assist them with the application process. So there are different partners depending on where you're located. In the metro area and the Great Southern, Southwest and Inner Wheatbelt, it's going to be one of two organisations. It's called APM or Mission Australia. Again, if you go on the NDIS website, if you're searching sort of NDIS partners, so I went through in terms of the tracking it, I went through contact, find us, and then NDIS in each state, and then went to WA to find where the NDIS partners are, who your local NDIS partner is. And so if you're not in the metro area, Great Southern, Southwest, or in a wheat belt, then there will be other partners. you might just have to inquire at the local NDIS office, which could be co-located with Services Australia, or your local health service, or a local Aboriginal medical service, to find out who is your NDIS partner, because there will be someone who covers your area, or they might not be located in your town, but they might be in your region, and have what they call remote access people to come out and support you or talk to you on the phone, to explain NDIS or help you to apply, help you to gather your evidence, that sort of thing.
That's good. Yeah, because it is so complex, isn't it? That's great to know.
It is. Yeah.
Great to know.
And I think we had one client recently who accessed it quickly through life limiting priority access. So is that something that's available, and how would they define life limiting?
Yes, I'm actually trying to, because NDIS does change its rules and goalposts every now and again, and recently there has been a lot of political contention about it, and so then I think they've changed and sort of changed some of their rules. All I would say is that I'm still getting up to speed with what's the latest for life limiting. So again, I would be probably talking to, even myself, I'd be talking to the partners to find out, or talking to the NDIS officers to find out what is the latest on life limiting. How do I meet that eligibility? I mean, again, it's still about permanent significant disability, permanent significant impairments. So for many patients, unfortunately, that comes at a time when time is of the essence and time is running out. So then it becomes, okay, now I meet eligibility, I just need you to process it faster. And so I think that's what that category is about. But yes, unfortunately, I'm sort of a bit unclear of what the latest process is for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Shirley. I think we pretty much covered. There was maybe a little bit about young family. I know there's financial support for young family. I mean, we've got Mummy's Wish, we've got Canteen, but is there anything that you've come across that we haven't? I don't think there's much out there, is there? But
I mean,
come across.
You mentioned, Mummy's Wish. So that supports mums who are diagnosed with a cancer and have at least one child aged 13 or younger. So they might have some financial support to, I guess they target it towards maintaining family functioning during treatment. So I guess to find out what they might be able to offer, the best thing is to, register with them, talk to their support people and see what they can offer. They also offer other things besides financial support, so they are a wonderful organisation. Canteen, yes, that supports young people ages 12 to 25 who either have cancer themselves or have a parent with cancer, and they arrange retreats. They've got activities for the young people to provide like a break from cancer. They have counselling, social activities, study and parenting support, but I don't believe they have financial assistance to offer.
Yeah.
So wonderful organisation, but maybe not the financial assistance. And then the last one is Camp Quality, which supports kids aged 0 to 15, who have cancer or who have a parent with cancer. They arrange kids only or family retreats, activities, again, to provide that break from cancer, counselling and age-appropriate educational resources, but again, maybe not so much the financial assistance. So, yeah.
It's tricky. Thank you.
And some of our clients have taken mortgage holidays to bring some relief. Is there an impact on that long term taking mortgage holidays? Because I know people worry about the interest side of things and
So, and obviously my information that I'm sharing is from just, experience and research and things. I'm not a financial counsellor. So yes, definitely speak to a financial counsellor or for more information. But from what I understand, a mortgage holiday is pausing repayments or reducing repayments on your mortgage for a period of time. And so yes, interest is still accrued. Always accrued and added to the balance during that period. So it just means that your repayment figure, once you finish your mortgage holiday, is going to be likely higher because you're having to catch up on that higher balance and higher interest. So it's sort of a short-term relief, but there is an impact later on. So I guess my understanding is that it is used in situations of, like, if you're in advantage, if you've got excess in your mortgage, so you've got like as a replacement to, say, that redraw facility. It's not something that you would maybe use if you're in arrears, if you're struggling to meet your mortgage repayments. Be aware that if you take a mortgage holiday, I believe it appears on your credit file as part of your repayment history. So that may affect your ability to finance in future. There might be fees and more criteria involved with being able to set that mortgage holiday up. But yes, as I said, probably best to discuss with your financial counsellor or your lender and consider your options and its impact before you sign up to that.
Yeah, really important to contact them as soon as you can, isn't it? To tell them what's going on.
And see what else they can offer.
Yeah. And with the counsellors that you said, like, if people are accessing their insurances in super and things like that, would you recommend someone speaking to a counsellor at that point too? Or does that kind of automatically happen when you speak to the insurers?
Not automatically happen. So some people will pursue their insurance policies and their super and things themselves. They don't necessarily get assistance from a financial counsellor. I mean, a financial counsellor would be very familiar with it all. And yes, for people who find it sort of all overwhelming and confusing, they are very knowledgeable about it and can sort of help you through the process. So again, it's a free service, so it doesn't hurt to speak to a counsellor. I guess depending on their availability, there might be a bit of a wait, perhaps. That might be the only downside. But yes, if you feel confident in communicating with your insurer, your super, filling in forms, that sort of thing, gathering information, you can do it yourself. So yes, you don't need to have a financial counsellor. It's not automatic, but you can. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to know that they're there.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think there was another question.
Yes. So, just when you said about the PBS safety net, is that something that automatically happens, or do you have to do something? You know what I mean? They will automatically know when you hit that threshold, or is there
from
something
memory,
you
the
need to
PBS
do?
safety net, I think you might need to apply for a card from memory. I think there was an application for a card. Yeah, I think you apply for a card to then, and you show that card then, like at the pharmacies and things, to make sure, you're not charged. I suppose if you go to a pharmacy consistently rather than multiple pharmacies, then that pharmacy might be more aware that you've reached the threshold and it's okay. But yes, I'm pretty sure you have to apply for a card, and you can see all of that. If you use MyGov, you can see that through your Medicare on your MyGov. You can see where you are in your threshold. So it's MyGov can show you a lot of information if you look through it.
Yeah, that's right. It's good to know what you said about MyGov. It's good to have that there, definitely. Well, I think that's probably
just one. Sorry,
that's okay.
This comes from one of the other nurses we work with, and I think again you covered like with transport and patient-assisted travel scheme and things like that. But if people are struggling with fuel generally, obviously they can reach out to some agencies, I guess, to see if fuel allowed and things like that. But are there any other things? Like I know some clients have access to things like taxi subsidies and things like that.
There is a tax, what's it called these days? It used to be called Taxi User Subsidy Scheme, but it's changed its name to, I think it's called the Passenger Transport Subsidy Scheme. So that's for people who can't drive, can't access public transport because of, physical or cognitive, intellectual reasons. And that it will give them, I believe it's up to 75% off the price of a taxi trip. It's an application form. You get the doctor to fill in part of the form. If you get your photo taken, because if you are approved, you get a card with your photo on it, and then that card is shown with the taxis, and then that would reduce the cost for you.
That's good. 75%
That's
good
too.
Yeah. So if you meet that criteria, it can be useful as an alternative for transport. And I guess for those who are in the aged care system, then part of the aged care support services can include transport service. So that's having a support worker who, yes, takes you to your appointment, drops you off to the appointment, make sure you get out of the car, get into the building safely. If it's more of like a physical frailty that or a cognitive thing, yes, so transport assistance through aged care services could also be provided. Or if you do have the NDIS, if you are being supported by NDIS, then that can include supported transport assistance. Yeah.
Great. Well,
That's
thank you,
amazing.
Shirley. I think you've given us so much information. It's been really helpful. Thank you so much.
No worries.
I'd just like to say thank you again. And obviously, if there's any more information anybody is needing, please reach out to Breast Cancer Care WA, and we will try and guide you and obviously get the appropriate people that need to support you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thanks very
Shirley, for
much.
joining us. And I hope it's been helpful to everyone watching. And as Lou said, please reach out to us if you need any further support. And yeah, have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you.